Welcome guys to the range deviation series. My goal for this series on YouTube is to introduce you to the basics of ranges and range deviations, the definitions, the tools or the indicators that I personally use, and how we can incorporate them every day across many different assets to determine high probability targets, entries, reversals, and retracements. So, in order to begin, we have to understand that a range needs to be defined for me in one of two ways, right? Number one, we can have a range which is defined in either price or in time. Now, when we define a range in price, what generally happens is that we would look for a swing high, a swing low perhaps, right? Could be any swing high, could be any swing low. Let's take, for example, this right here, okay? This right here is not identified or determined by time, but rather by choice or by price. So in this instance, we took a random swing high to a random swing low, determined that this is the range we would like to use, and this is the upper and lower boundary of the range and EQ of the range in the middle right here. The alternate is that we could use a range governed by time. For example, let's say this was a specific timed opening at 12. Let's call it 12 down here. Let's call it 12 p.m. right there. This is the opening price of this particular range. So in this instance, the lower boundary would be the lowest wick of this range. And let's say we wanted this range to extend till 1 p.m., right? So 1 p.m. gets us somewhere here. The upper boundary, however, is all the way up here. So this particular range, as opposed to the one identified by price, is governed by the high and the low within the timed range from 12 to 1 in this instance. Okay, so this would be a timed range, as opposed to what we worked with previously was just a range governed by price. Okay, a swing high and a swing low. The most basic deviations of this range that I would or can offer anyone would be a deviation above and below, right? And the deviation itself would be what I call a magic range, or it's come to be known as a tractor beam in my group. And what this actually does is, when we take a range defined by price in this instance, the upper two boundaries are 0.25 deviations above right here, and 0.5, 0.25 below, and 0.5. Now, for this particular range and range deviation tool, all I did was take a normal fib retracement tool, put in these settings: 1.25, 1.5, obviously 0 and 1 for the upper and lower boundary of the range, minus 0.25 and minus 0.5. So what this would now give me, it would give me levels above and below my specified range in price that I could expect price to do something at, either retracement or reversal. The best plays that come off a range like this would generally be a mirror deviation play, which means if we expect price or expected price to hit 0.25 above the range, I would look for a deviation or trade back to 0.25 below the range. Okay, the same goes with 0.5 above to 0.5 below. That's just how this deviation works, or range deviation using the 0.25 and 0.5. And what this actually does for you, it gives you the breaker model either for continuation or reversal, which means we had a high, we had a low, price broke above it, price broke below it, and then we started to continue higher, giving you that breaker fractal. Now, once we expand on these kind of ranges, we now understand what the definition of a range is, either defined or governed by price or by time. We understand that the simplest range deviation usable would be 0.25 and 0.5. If you had to go over and look at an asset like gold, because this is not governed by any asset. If you had to go over and look at an asset like gold and go on any time frame and identify any sort of consolidation above or below a range, right? What we then can do is, during the consolidation phases, we could fib the upper and lower boundaries, right, from here to here. If we expect manipulation below, or if we expect manipulation above this accumulation, the 0.25 and 0.5 are where we would expect it to happen from. So in this case, we deviate to 0.25 above the range, it mirror plays to 0.25 below the range, giving you that breaker fractal, and then we have continuation higher. You could use this for any time frame, as long as you are able to identify a consolidation. We should be able to identify areas where this is likely to reverse from. In this case, a range high, a range low, deviation. Note how they aren't putting any bodies above 0.5, comes below to EQ, retracement to 0.25, delivers to 0.5 on the other end for the mirror deviation play. Okay, it can be as simple as that, and the only understanding or logic that you would need is, let us identify a consolidation or an accumulation phase, and let's look at the manipulation above or manipulation below, then trade it to the opposing side of the range using a mirror deviation. So now that we understand the definition of what a range can be, either in price or time, we understand the most simplest of ranges or range deviations using the 0.25 and 0.5. We'll start to build and focus on expanding the model using different tools. The model of the indicator of choice would be the liquidity depth Pro Plus from 2 degrees. There should be a discount code somewhere at the top here that you should be able to use in order to get a 20% discount on this, and or any discounts on my mentorship as well. And what we would use this indicator for is to plot the range, right? So the indicator using the liquidity depth Pro Plus would allow us to have custom ranges, but more specifically, it would allow us to have custom deviations that we could use here. So this is the introduction to ranges and range deviations. In the next episode, we'll tackle more what the deviations are and how we would then use them day to day on different assets.